We have a special guest, Andrea Henry. Andrea, I am so thrilled that you are here. Let me tell you about this woman. She helped me find my acres of diamonds that led to multiple six figures in my business in a short amount of time. And we're going to talk about that, exactly what you did, and how you can help others do the same. Welcome to Possibilities with me, Hina Khan. I help you create a life you love, and we do it through ease, joy, and fun. Andrea knows we are not here for the hard, the struggle, and the grind. Andrea Henry is an incredible lawyer. She's the mom to 3 beautiful children, a breast cancer survivor, and somebody who feels it is very important for women especially to create generational wealth. She wants you to be rich, 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 like really rich. Andrea, let's start with why that mission is important to you.
Oh my goodness. So women, especially women entrepreneurs, give back to their communities, give back and invest in their families. Like the society as a whole does better, is more equitable and more just when we have more money. And the fact that we give, so women entrepreneurs give more than men. Women of color entrepreneurs give more than any other entrepreneurial group.
Really?
And so my position is, if we had more to give, if we're more willing to be generous, we're more willing to invest back into our communities, what if we really had those assets to invest while looking after each other, while doing things from a place of ease?
Why do you think it is challenging for women to really get behind this idea of creating wealth?
Yeah, I think traditionally it hasn't been, first of all, for a long time we couldn't own.
Yeah.
Right? For
Yes.
long parts of history, we couldn't own at all. I think it was in the 1970s that women in Canada and America were able to have credit cards, if you can think about that. If you had a bank account, you needed to have either your father or your husband sign on. If you couldn't get loans without having a man sign off. And so I think traditionally, we haven't really thought that it's our responsibility or even within our ability to create it. This is especially the case if you come from, traditionally excluded communities where you don't necessarily have real estate and other tangible assets being passed down from generation to generation. So we feel, we don't come from money, but you can create it.
Okay, I want to stop there for a minute. You said we feel we don't come from money. So that's what we would call a paradigm.
Yes.
So this is a belief. And if our actions are coming from our belief and we feel we don't come from money, it can actually be a big stretch. Like you may be asking, like this could be a big ask of you, Andrea Henry, to say you feel you don't come from money, but you could go out and create it.
Yes.
Right?
So it is a story that we're telling ourselves that we are unable to create wealth if we haven't come from wealth. It's absolutely a story. And the reason I know this is a story, because how many examples are there of people who don't come from wealth, but have been able to create it for themselves and for generations to come?
And was this your story, Andrea?
I definitely do not come from wealth, but my children will.
And did you have to switch this in your own mind to get to the place of, I can create my own wealth?
Absolutely. So first of all, wealth and people who were wealthy when I was growing up, I grew up in a very religious household, and it was very much that money was the root of all evil, and all wealthy people are greedy, and you can't make money unless you either, press on people or oppress people coming up, or if you sacrifice your health and your family and, died alone with no children around you. That was the paradigm that I had been taught growing up. So I first had to unlearn that.
Yeah.
But again, looking for examples. So I found examples of people who were very wealthy, but also amazingly loving and generous and kind and warm people. So that helped me to think, okay, as opposed to thinking in absolutes. Absolutely, there's some wealthy people who are not wonderful people, but they are like, the wealth is not what makes you evil or not evil.
That's right. I always think of it as that it just amplifies who you are.
Yeah.
So if you're kind and generous, as you've shown, as you've said, statistically, women are with their money, with their resources, with their wealth, it will just amplify that. And if you are not, it will amplify that. You're just a jerk with money.
Exactly.
Or you're kind with money. So it's almost neutralizing it, isn't it?
That's it. The money is just a tool.
Gosh, isn't it? It's so, when you start to really think about it, it seems a little nutty that we have to convince ourselves that it is okay to have wealth.
Yes. Yeah. And it is okay. Like I talked about the service, and that is very important, but also it's okay to enjoy money just for the hell of it. It's okay to spend money on yourself. It's okay to spend money on things that aren't necessary if it improves your life. And I think that was even a harder one to get to.
Yes.
Because the mindset of, okay, I'll make the money, but I'll give it all away is easier than, actually, no, I'm going to spend it on things that improve my life. I'm going to pass it on. I'm going to do things that aren't necessarily necessary.
I'm going to allow myself to have joy, to use it in things that bring me joy.
Exactly.
That's a whole other layer. So it's so interesting because there are these different layers. And what I love, Andrea, about working with you is that because this is a value of yours and it's your mission, like you are here to help women create wealth, you see things that they may not see as a possibility. And you did that with me. And now you've kind of coined it as unlock your IP. So can you share a bit about that? And then I'm going to share with you how this showed up for me in my business.
Absolutely. So I'm so glad you brought this up because, again, it's the possibilities of things. And so when I'm working with clients, as you would have experienced, my first question is not like, what do you want me to do a contract for? It's, what are your goals for your life? Not your business. What are your goals for your life? So we ask things like, how much time do you want off? How much vacation do you want to take? For me, when I first started my business, it was really important to attend every single field trip that my kids went to, because when I was working in corporate, I couldn't. And so you start with where are your goals, right? What are your goals for your life? And then working backwards, looking at the opportunities that exist in what you've already created. Again, the whole point is doing this from a place of ease. And so what's easier than using what you already have to create what you want?
Here's what's interesting is this is where you come in, though, because I didn't know that I already had.
That's true.
And do you find this? Like, we don't know that we have.
Yeah. Well, that's the issue with anything legal in general, is people don't know what they don't know. I was presenting at a retreat last year, and I asked everyone, let's do an IP audit. Let's write down all the things.
Okay, so first of all, explain what IP is.
So IP is intellectual property. It's essentially any intangible asset, and it usually relates to creations of your mind. So your content, your books, your systems and procedures, your policies and procedures, your brand, the name, the logo, anything that you've created that's used in your business or to provide a service or to sell a product is your intellectual property. And it's funny because in the early 19th, so I'm a bit of a historian, so I'm always going back historical facts, but if you think of the great industrialists, right?
Yes.
So the Carnegies and the Mellons, et cetera, they made their money with tangible assets.
Yes.
But if you think of the wealthy individuals in our society, it's all intellectual property. You think of the Bill Gates and the Elon Musk. Apple is the most valuable company ever in history. It's based entirely on its intellectual property. And so, as you said, often we don't value because we have created it. So we undervalue it and we don't think, okay, this is something that someone else would be interested in. And so what I've done with clients in private, like with you, and what I'm going to be doing with this new program is helping you to understand what the assets are in what you've already created. What's the best way to harness them so that they become a valuable asset? And the beautiful thing about harnessing your intellectual property is not only does it increase your income in the short run, it also makes your company more valuable. which means, and that ties into the generational wealth, which means, but when you decide that it's time to go lie on a beach in Bora Bora, you can now sell it. And it's worth tons more than if you hadn't created these intellectual property assets.
And what I love is that it's not hard. It's more of organizing it. So I think for me, when people would say, oh, you should create something, you should do that. Until you and I sat down, it felt really hard.
Yeah.
I felt like, how would I do all of that? So first of all, I realized I don't have to do all of it. I just need to get this, whatever is happening in there, out. But someone else can help organize it.
This is it.
And you can help me with a lot of the legalities of it, which you did, and help me organize it and help me get clarity in my mind.
Yeah.
So that was something that was stopping me from even pursuing it, which you really helped me with.
I remember because when I first pitched the idea of a certification, you were like,
Yes.
It seemed like too much work. And then I think it was a full year before you came back, and you'd increase your team as well. So you had more support to be able to do it. But I do think people think it's going to be really difficult, right?
Yes, I did.
And you look at examples of other people who've done coaching certifications or franchises or licensing programs, and you think, that's beyond me. But it's not really, right? Like you just have to value your own brilliance. And I remember one of the books that you recommended to me way when we first knew each other was The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
The Big Leap.
And for those of you who are not familiar, Gay Hendricks talks about this concept of zone of genius.
Mm-hmm.
And the zone of genius is really what you were put on this earth to do. Mm-hmm. The trick, though, is that it usually comes so easily that we don't value it. Because you kind of assume that everyone else can do it. It's so natural to you that you think that everyone else is able to do that.
Yeah.
Like me and seeing opportunities, I was like, of course people are seeing this. It took many years for me to understand,
Yes, they're not.
Other people don't see it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And so often we have these assets. Maybe you're a whiz at creating connection.
Yes.
Maybe you've got like the most efficient way to run a business ever. But because that's what comes naturally to you, you undervalue it. And part of what I help people to do is to see the real value of their creative brilliance.
It's so true, because the thing is that, so then there's another step, because then you can maybe identify it, but you don't know how to monetize it.
Which is always the question, because I think we've had those conversations, which is, well, how are we going to make money from it?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's not a charity, it's a business, right? And so it's how do we package those things in a way that people will pay for? And it has to match your skill set. So you love to teach. Mm-hmm. So certification made sense for you. Someone who doesn't but is great at putting something together, a licensing program might make more sense, right? So looking at your skill set and what you want to do, also looking at where is your brand more powerful? Is your brand powerful in your industry? Or is it powerful, person to person? Is it something that corporate really needs? Understanding who values you and what it is that you can produce, and then tailoring your assets to meet that market need.
And what I want you to know is that it doesn't have to take long.
No.
Because I think I also thought, oh, Lord, I'm going to be like at a retirement party putting this thing out, like I'm going to be 65, like it'll be a decade, right? I thought it would take a long time. And that was one of the beliefs that I had that stopped me from doing it. Yeah. What I love is how, well, first of all, you held my hand throughout the whole thing. Sometimes I need a little hold handing. And because I knew that I had you there to guide me and support me, we were able to do this in about 6 months. And it brought multiple six figures into my business, continues to do so. We're on cohort number 3. But what's even better is the impact, because that was important to me, was that I wanted to be able to create impact. So it's not only about the revenue, the bottom line, it's about you having a bigger impact and something that's beyond you.
That's really the crux of it, is to help people see the impact that they can have beyond just when they show up one-on-one or when they show up in front of someone. And I remember that being really important to you. And one of the things that I used to try to encourage you along the way was, look at all the people that would love to do private coaching with you, but can't because you're just at capacity. But imagine if you had people that you had trained so that all these thousands of people who would want to experience that now can. And if you had all of those entrepreneurs and all those people getting the benefit of Khan method coaching, what would that do for our society? What would that do for businesses? And I think that motivated you more than the money.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And we've seen it. We've seen what the graduates are doing and how they're taking it into their own industry. And what's interesting is you don't know how it will all unfold. Like I had thought this is going to be for coaches. We have leaders, people that have teams because they want to be more effective with their teams. So of course, there's probably people watching that are saying, okay, I get the IP thing if you're in the coaching space. Who does have the potential to look at their IP?
Oh my goodness, so many people. So
really?
Basically, any service professional, if you have a particular way of doing things, if you have really good content, right, that you can teach, if there are programs that you've created that you've sold to one person, you've got this intellectual property. If you're an influencer and people just love to listen to you.
Really?
Yeah. Because your way of doing things is important. Right? And this works across, I'm an introvert, right? Like this works across the board. So if you are an introvert and you're not really big on being in front of large audiences, maybe it's a book. That's harnessing your intellectual property. If you know how to do something, you can write a book about it. If you love to teach, it may be a certification program. If you are amazing at nails or run an amazing spa, or there's someone in one of my masterminds who has a very niche gym for people who want their children to not be in competitive sports, but still have high level coaching, and start a franchise.
Wow.
Because now you can expand, and it's not then limited to how much you can do. I think that to me is the beauty of intellectual property, is the leveraging of something that you have created, but allowing it to go beyond you, allowing that impact to go beyond you. Lexi, who's in our inner circle, with her franchise, with the Wax On franchise, it goes beyond her because now other women entrepreneurs, and I think she's got an all-women team, are able to own businesses. The women who work in those businesses, because Lexi is so, part of her intellectual property is how she builds team and how she builds culture. And so people love working at the franchises, even though Lexi isn't managing it directly. And so that's the beauty, like regardless of what you have and what type of personality or skill set, there is a way for you to harness your intellectual property.
And I think you've got to be with somebody that asks the right questions so you know, because I think it's so true. You could even just think about what are the things that come easy to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have a paradigm around monetizing what comes easy to us because it comes easy to us.
It's a whole zone of genius issue.
Right?
That's exactly it.
So we don't want to monetize it because we feel like, well, we haven't earned it. It should be something really hard or we should really struggle. But start with thinking, what comes easy to you? What are the things that you already have? So when I talked about Acres of Diamonds, you helped me find my Acres of Diamonds. I wasn't seeing it in that way. So what is like literally at your feet right now? And then you've also got a program starting, Andrea, to help people. Can you tell us about that?
I do. So it's Uncover Your IP Goldmine. It started May 25th. And I'm really excited because this is the first time that I'm going to be able to work. I've traditionally worked with private clients and kind of done for you. So this is an opportunity to really teach. My mom was a teacher. I love to teach. So I'm really excited about this program. And it's essentially what we were talking about. It's first identifying your dreams, what lights you up, what's your zone of genius. Wonderful. Now, what assets do you currently have? What do you already have in your business? So what's the easiest thing we can create when we marry what you already have with who you are and what you love to do? Once we make that decision, what are the components, right? What are the necessary things in a certification program or in a licensing program? How do you negotiate with corporate? How do you make sure, this is really important, how do you make sure that the standards are kept once it comes outside of you? Because that's a real worry for people, which is I've built up my reputation. I know how to do something properly. I'm worried that other people won't treat it with the same respect. So we talk about how we make sure we do that. And then finally, all the legal aspects that you need to make sure that it's protected. So do we need to register trademarks? Do we need to have agreements? What's necessary to make sure that this thing that you've created that's now going to have so much impact and generate revenue remains protected so that you can go out there and sell it with confidence?
So really then, for people that do this, they going through this with you will end up with something tangible.
Yeah, they'll end up with a new intellectual property asset that they can sell. They'll end up with a certification program. They'll end up with a licensing program. Yeah.
And this is what I love is that you'll collapse time because like I said, I thought it would take a really long time.
Yeah.
And you're starting in May. So how long is it?
So it's 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
So really collapsed in time. But
Yes.
because I've done it so many times that now
Yes.
I have a system
Yes.
that is really powerful and moves you through the process really quickly. And I'll just put a plug for lawyers in general.
Yeah.
Often, when you were talking about the opportunities and the right questions to ask, often people go to lawyers when something has already gone wrong, right? So they have an upset client or someone makes a claim against them or they're worried, or even if it's a contract, it's, I want to protect this from happening, which is important. But a really good lawyer knows how to ask the right questions and helps you see opportunities that you may not have seen. I like to think of myself as my client's blind spot checker.
You are 100%, 100%. And then, I was going to ask you something. Okay, hold on. Carry on. It'll come back.
And so it's a really powerful methodology based on, over 15 years of experience of working with entrepreneurs and helping them to leverage their intellectual property. And I really wanted it to be available at a more accessible price point for people who are like, I think I might have it. This is something I'm interested in, but aren't necessarily willing to invest in, in the private experience. But I think once people start to see the possibilities, and it opens up a whole new part of your business, really.
Yeah. And to be guided, like to have someone hold your hand for the time as well. Now, is this limited to Canada, the US, like can anybody do this?
Anyone can do this.
Okay.
So the legal aspects that we're going to, and we will be providing checklists and templates and guides, but they will be applicable regardless of where you are. And really the legal part is an important part.
Yeah.
But really with this, it's the marriage of what you're good at, what you already have, and what the market will pay for, and helping people to figure out what that right vehicle is. I think that's priceless, quite frankly.
Yes.
But that really can be people, regardless of where they are, can benefit
and
from
you know
it.
what I love about this is once you do it, like, so now I've done it. I've done Khan method coaching. Now that I've done it, it opens up to what is next. So, we're going to be doing our own programs and things like that. And that was able to come out of this experience. And so you could be sitting on a 7-figure idea.
That's right.
Right?
That's absolutely right. And the beauty of doing this is, as you say, it starts to open your brain to the possibilities and also how you deal with your business. So I think one of the things that we discuss as you were going through this, documenting more things, right? Because once you realize, okay, I need to get this out of my brain and into some type of documentation, once you have the experience of doing that and seeing the impact, now everything becomes documented. And so the next time you have to do it, it's even faster because you already have all of your systems and your content documented.
As you say this, Andrea, and as we bring this to a close, I think this is just what came to me. I think that now, more than ever, we have so much possibility to write our own story.
Yes.
And really create wealth that makes a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, right? In the past, you needed to have access to capital and you needed to invest in equipment and you needed to have this huge team.
And if I may say, there were also barriers too, right?
Absolutely.
If you were a woman of color, and you needed to access financing, it wasn't that easy.
That's right.
There were a lot of blocks. It's different now.
It's absolutely different. And it's interesting that you raised the point of access to capital. You can borrow against intellectual property assets.
Well, now you just opened up a whole other How much time? How much time do we
Another
have?
time,
Yeah.
another time. But that's absolutely true. This is the time to really seize the day and seize the opportunities. You can create a brand, you can create a following and a community
Yeah.
by going directly to them. You don't need to ask permission. The only person that has to give permission is you.
So give yourself permission, because I think that if this is something that you're like, I think I might have something, and you're not sure, just hit up Andrea. She'll be happy to talk to you.
Absolutely. I'll talk your ear off
She'll
about
talk
it.
your ear off about it. Because this could be just that one little missing piece that ends up being that domino that everything else literally
Absolutely.
falls into place. And I, like Andrea, am so passionate about people having rich lives in all areas, not only revenue, but also the impact that you're making, doing what you love. And I think this is a great opportunity that if in 6 weeks you can have something at a level where it can start to get monetized, or you're well on your way to it, I think it's worth 6 weeks of your time.
I think so too. And the other area where you have that richness is in time. Because
Yes.
one of the things of leveraging, like the only way that I know to make money, or the only 2 ways that I know to make money without you actually providing a service or selling something, is to have a team who's doing it for you, or to have assets that do it for you. And traditionally, we've thought about it in terms of like real estate, right? And you rent it out or you lend money. But this is also intellectual property assets are, we just talked about Apple, most valuable company in history. It's all intellectual property assets. And so when you start doing that and you've got an impact that goes beyond you, your time now is freed up to do the things that you really love to do. Whether that is spending more time with your family or starting a yoga practice.
I'll tell you what it isn't. It's not going on the field trips.
It's,
I was like, God
me it
bless
is.
you. Andrea is on the field trips.
for me, it is.
For you, it is. You love a good
I
field
love
trip.
a good field trip. Like,
Andrea is there, not me.
I'm excited with the kids. I'm just like, woo, where are we going? African Lion Safari. I'm going African Lion Safari at the end of May. I'm more excited than my daughter, I think.
I love it.
But it's whatever you love to
Yeah.
do. Or it frees you up to do other things in your business that now create even more possibilities.
Yeah, I think that's really what it is. And one of the things you touched on was this is also touching on the mindset of a wealth consciousness. So even if you look at millionaires, billionaires, what you're going to notice is they don't have one source of income.
Nope.
They have multiple sources of income, and they have their money making money
for them. It's
making
all
money
leverage.
for them. It's all leverage. That is time and money freedom.
Exactly.
And this is a way, especially for women, to get in on this and not be dependent on other external sources, because this is
Exactly.
coming from within you and you are in control of it. Andrea,
That's the
last
beauty.
word. Go ahead. What do you want to tell the people?
That's the beauty of it. Imagine having a business that is based on what you love to do and what lights you up, that gives you more money and makes you more impact. So that, as Beyonce, this is one of my favorite lines in her songs, when she says that her great-grandchildren are already rich.
Yes.
And that's my last word.
Well, that's a way to end off. You can find out more about Andrea's programs and all of the things she's up to by checking out the links in our description. It is all there, including the new program for you to unlock your own IP. So that's all there. And you know what to do. Like, subscribe, download, do all the things, and I will see you here next time.